Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's 7:15 here in Ireland, but it's still 3 in Brazil. So, good afternoon, Roberto. Hope you're okay.
Good
And
afternoon.
today, believe it or not, it's already almost 1 month since the last time Robert was with us. And here he comes for the third part with his hell and suffering spirits. So it's good to have you here, Roberto. Thank you, by the way, for the opportunity. Thank you, FEESP, for this partnership. And let me check. People are still joining us. Pacho Oliveira already with us. Yeah, and today we are broadcasting mainly from YouTube. Yes. Yeah, there I have this question here. Okay, okie dokie. So, first things first, and let's start with the initial prayer.
Okay.
So, let's raise up our thoughts, like to make connection with our mentors of Ireland, mentors of ESP. Ask the benefactors to enlighten ourselves, enlighten our speaker today, guide us throughout the difficulties, and use our intelligence in our favor without selfishness. May this good vibration reach out to those brothers who are in the hospitals, on the streets without shelter. So be it. Amen. Okay. Okay. Let me share. For those, yeah, I forgot that. For those, Roberto Watanabe, he's for those here are here for the first time. Roberto Watanabe is the president of São Paulo State Spiritist Federation, and he joined us every month. And this year he will cover the book Heaven and Hell from Allan Kardec. So he is on his third presentation, and stay tuned because every month he is here with us, sharing his knowledge. Okay, okay, my friend. Let me pull your deck here. Okay,
Okay.
it is with you, my friend.
Okay. Thank you, Stefan. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here with you again. And today we are going to talk about some chapters from the book Heaven and Hell. The issue today is not that very nice, right? Because we are going to talk about the hell, limbo, purgatory, and things like that. But then we will give you the view of the Spiritism, and we will take some cases from the second part of the book, where we have some communication from spirits that illustrate the spiritist view. So let's start by this issue today: hell and suffering spirits. We'll be starting by talking about the conception of hell. And this is a conception that people from the ancient time already had. And it is based on the intuition of the future punishment, according to what the people had done in their present life, done of good or evil action, and then the consequences from that. So that's the origin of this such idea of hell based on this future punishment if we practice evil deeds while we are here on earth incarnate. And so that's why the ancient people, for them, the future life, which is the life after we die, should be happy or unhappy according to the good or evil they practiced during their life on earth. It is interesting here because we what we can see here is that the ancient people already had the belief in the immortality of the soul, and so that's why they had some conceptions about future life. But as they were still dominated by matter, by the corporeal life, they imagined a picture of a future punishment if they did uh, evil deeds while they were here on earth, and the rewards if they did good deeds. And such punishment and rewards would be more physical than spiritual. So it would be like after we die, we should remain with a kind of a corporeal body, which today, according to Spiritism, we don't have anymore this idea. But at that time, they had such idea. And then that's why if they lived in hot climes, such ancient people imagine a hell of fire. And if they lived in frigid regions, they would imagine a hell of ice. So this is the origin of the idea of a hell. Of course, when we are talking about hell, we are talking about the situation where they did evil, bad deeds, right? While they were here on earth. And so we are going to talk here about future punishment because as a consequence of those evil deeds. And such idea from the ancient people, pagan people, was also incorporated by Christianism. So that the Christian hell is also an imitation of the pagan hell. So that in the Heaven and Hell book, we read that the pagan hell dramatized by the poets, by the pagan poets, was perpetuated by Christians who had their own bards, right, their own poets. And both conception of a hell have the physical fire as the element of a torment, because fire symbolizes the most atrocious means of suffering. You see that in the Middle Age, for example, we had that situation of the Inquisition, for example, where people who were accused of uh, being against the laws of the church, they were burned. You know? And so this is the basis for the idea of a hell. And so that, like the pagans, Christians also have their king of hell, which is Satan. The pagans have, for example, Hades. Well, it's a god that governs the underworld. And Christians have the idea of Satan, which is the chief, let's say, of all the bad spirits, which they call demons. We are going to talk about that in I think it's 2 months from now. And so Satan recruits victims everywhere on earth and thrills at to torment them, especially after we die. So if we have done lots of evil deeds while we are here, after we die, Satan would be waiting for us there, no? to torment us with fire. And they also, Christian, pagan and Christians circumscribed the place of a torment. So there were a kind of a physical place where such torments would occur, and that would be in lower regions, or in other words, the center of the earth. So that is the idea, right? That they had on the ancient times, and then after that, on the especially on the medieval times. Although such idea of a hell, Satan, the Christian had until today they had such kind of a belief, and so Christian sects they believed that we as spirits, uh, we while we are here living on Earth, depending on what we do while we are here, after we die, we we have only two extreme situations for us: either perfect bliss or absolute suffering. In other words, heaven, which is the perfect bliss, if we have done well while we are here, or hell, absolute suffering, if we did bad, evil deed, right, while we are here. And then they also had a conception of a purgatory, which is something between the two. But purgatory is only an intermediary and temporary position, because if the person, the evil deeds that the person accomplished while he or she was here on Earth was not that serious, or not that big, then after dying they would be sent to this purgatory, right? So, and then they should take some time there, and if someone pray for them, then they would, after that they would go to heaven. So at the end of the day, uh, they the Christians belief involved these two extreme situations: heaven or hell, right? A soul could go to purgatory, but after that he or she should be elevated to heaven. And so there could be no other hypothesis, right? Given the belief in the definitive fate of the soul after death, heaven or hell. So this is very dramatic, right? And currently, in the Christian, the Christians, and inside the church also, there are many individuals who no longer take such things literally, right? To be burnt eternally in hell, or to be in eternal bliss in heaven, right? So uh, some individuals today, even inside the church, they see such ideas as simple allegories whose meanings require interpretation. But this is for some individuals, because generally the belief in the physical hell is still continuous as an article of faith. And then what is the view of Spiritism? So Spiritism sees the idea of hell in the following um, way. Uh, if we imagine how great the suffering is of certain guilty spirits in the invisible world, it means that a person who had done lots of evil deeds while he was incarnate, after he dies and go to the invisible world, he would suffer, because he would realize how guilty he is because of such evil deeds. And after, in addition to that, and this situation should be very painful, because such a person would not foresee any end to his suffering. So it would be like such suffering would last for eternity. So that's the idea of the what the Spiritism sees as something close to such idea of the Christian or pagan hell, is when, because of the lots of evil deeds that I have done while I was here. And when I go to the spiritual world, I realized the, the wrongs that I did, and then I suffer. And then such suffering appears to me that it will have no end. So that would be something uh, closer to such idea of hell. So this is the view of Spiritism. But Spiritism does not see any eternal suffering. So that is the difference between Spiritism and the Christian and pagan conception of hell. So, uh, that's why we say that thanks to the spirits we say the superior spirits from their teachings, we know that the length of expiation depends on the betterment of the wrongdoer. Doer. It means that even if I did lots of wrongs while I was here, and now I'm there on the spiritual world suffering from the guilt that I feel because of that, even there on the spiritual world, I can try to better myself. And at the same pace that I better myself, such suffering will be reduced. So that's what the Spiritism says. So that's why we say that the Spiritism does not deny the idea of future punishment. So Spiritism um, agrees with that, right? Because it's what we call in Spiritism the law of cause and effect. What we do, the good that we do will have a good consequence. The evil that we do will have a bad consequence. So that from this second situation, we have such idea of a future punishment. But such future punishment is never eternal, right? It is never without end, right? It never lasts for the infinite of time. So Spiritism accepts the idea of future punishment, but what it abolishes is a localized hell. There is no place, like we saw last month, there is no place for heaven. Also, there is no place for hell. With it, and with its furnaces and never-ending torture, right? The spirit is being burnt in, for eternity. So that's not acceptable for Spiritism. Because Spiritism says if there is a definitive fate, heaven or hell, there can be no progress, because if the person did the good, he goes to heaven and stays there for the eternity. No progress. Huh? If he does evil deeds while they are he's here on earth, then he goes to hell and stays there for the eternity. So there is no progress. So that's why we say in Spiritism, if there is a definitive fate, there can be no progress. Whereas if there is progress, then there can be no definitive fate. And this is what Spiritism defends, right? There is progress. We as a Spiritists, we progress. So there is no definitive fate for us, right? Heaven or hell. We are always progressing through reincarnation, and that's why we read in the Heaven and Hell book that Jesus resolved such issue when he stated that there are many dwelling places in my Father's house, meaning that in the universe there are lots of worlds in many evolution levels, and as the spirit is progress in him or herself, he will live in such worlds at a much higher levels as he evolved more and more. So for from this we can see that there is no idea in Spiritism of a heaven where the person will live forever after just one life, or hell that the person also another person would be lived forever also after just one life. So That's the idea that we have here. So to to illustrate the spiritism view, let's take this case here. This is a woman called Claire, named Claire, and she communicated in the Parisian society. Parisian society was society in Paris that was, let's say, presided by Allan Kardec, the founder of the Spiritism. And Claire communicated herself there in 1861. And here, what she says, what we heard from her, we hear complaints of a woman whom the medium had known while she was alive. So it means that such a woman was communicating to a medium, a woman, and such a woman had known she while she was alive. And then what she says? She says, "I'm here, the miserable Claire. I'm suffering. I see only silent and indifferent shadows." So it's like she felt totally isolated, right, from the rest of the world. She didn't see nothing, just shadows. Huh? It's silence. And she says, "I'm suffering." And then she is very disturbed by the situation, right? Because she says that the resignation and hope in such situation are mere words to those who know that their sufferings will last throughout interminable centuries. So here we can see, right, the idea that the spirit is suffering, and she, in this case, does not see any end for such sufferings. For her, such suffering would last throughout interminable centuries, right? So that's the idea of, let's say, more closer to hell that we have in the Spiritism. But what is interesting that the main reason why she was communicating there in the Parisian society is because she was being aided, right? She was being helped there, because she had this opportunity to communicate, to talk about her sufferings, and then receive some help from the medium, from the people who was there in meeting in the society, in the Parisian society. That's why at the end of her communication, she says, "I don't know what force keeps me drawing me to you." She means to the people who were incarnate, people who were reunited there, right, on the Parisian society. "Might you be my salvation?" she said. Right? "I depart from you feeling calmer and rekindled." So because people there was praying for her, was giving her good advice, and then reducing, well, her suffering. So that is something very important that we have in the Spiritism, and we have in the Spiritist centers, right? There, Spiritists of the dead go there and they receive such orientation, such good words, praise, and that will calm down them and uh, modify, let's say, their mindset from suffering, from seeing no end for their suffering, and then to give her to give them hope. So that's something very important that we do in the spirit centers. We don't help only incarnate people who look for us, who come to us in the spirit center. We also help the spiritist, right? The spiritist of the dead who comes also for help. So that's very important to hear. And so then the spirit Saint Louis, who was the spiritual president of the Parisian society, he was is the king, right? Saint Louis, who lived in the 11th century. So then he's as a spirit, he clarified the situation of Claire, right? So he says that Claire, while she was living among us, Claire enjoyed what you might call earthly happiness. Earthly, because from the point of view of our corporeal life, right? Which is beauty, fortune, pleasure, praise. So she lacked nothing. And what did she do with that, right? St. Louis says, right? She was self-centered, right? She was dominated by selfishness. She only loved herself, and now no one loves her. So that's why she feels like she was totally isolated, right, from the rest of the world, there in the spiritual world, because as she didn't love anyone while she was here, nobody loves her when she was there, right, in the spiritual world. So that's why she's finding herself isolated, abandoned, and that's what comprises her torment. So that's a very interesting situation. She's not burning into fire, right? The, the suffering is totally mental, right? It's moral. It's from her mind. It's not physical. So that's something that Spirit clarify to us. So, and she sees nothingness. Such nothingness uh, uh, appears to her that would be something with no end, right? So that which seems eternal to her. So that's the situation here. But what is interesting that after some time she comes again in the Parisian society and see what is her mind, or what is the situation for her mind, her emotion. She said, well, now I am at peace and resigned to expiating the wrongs I committed. And she realized that evil is not outside her, but it is inside her. Huh? And then she said that since the state of our soul either lower or elevate us, that means that we are our own judges. So this is also very important that we learn in Spiritism, that the judge of our good or bad deeds is not someone, right? Even God. The, the judge of our good or bad deeds is our conscience. That's what she realized, huh? And she's saying here. And but she said, well, I still crawl, huh? But I no longer hate, and I can now conceive of the ineffable happiness of divine love. And then she asked for the people there, right, on the Parisian. So continue to pray for me, and as I hope and wait. So this is to have an idea. At the same time, what is this? Something closer to the idea of the pagan or Christian hell, which is, from the Spiritist point of view, is something very different, and see that everything goes to elevate us, right? To progress. So that is on the basis of the spiritist belief. Now let's talk now about such idea of limbo. So the church also admits a special position in certain cases. For example, children who die at a very young age. Well, um, they didn't have any opportunity to commit any evil, so that they cannot be condemned to eternal fire. But they didn't have any opportunity to do any good either. So they are not entitled to supreme bliss, right? So if they don't go to hell, don't go to heaven either. So they stay in a what we call this limbo, right? So such an undefined situation in which, although they do not suffer because they didn't do any wrongs, from the other hand, they do not enjoy any blessedness. Right? So, and the same applies, which applies to children, also applies to primitive people who sin out of ignorance because they are driven by natural instincts. Right? They still don't have the morality developed in their minds. Right? So that is the something kind of a special case. So what Spiritist says of that, right? To understand that we are going to see a case of a boy who died in a very early age. So, and see what is the situation here. Which is Marcel, right? Marcel is this boy of about 9 years. He communicated in the Parisian Society in 1863, and he was seriously ill. The body was completely contorted, his body was covered with sores, and his suffering was atrocious. Atrocious. He was in a sanatorium, right? Some provincial hospital. But he was also remarkably intelligent for his age. His sweetness, patience, and resignation were uplifting. There was a doctor who treated him, and when he had some time, he used to read some books for the boy, and then he would be admired by the comments that the boy would do about what he was reading. So that's where he perceived he perceived the boy's intelligence, right? So, and he was very resigned for his situation. And upon dying, for at the same time about 9 years, that that is dying as children, his last thoughts were about God and about the doctor, right? The good doctor that was taking care of him. So this is what we see, and according to the let's say the church belief, such a boy would go to that limbo, right? So according to Spiritism, we must understand why such a boy was in this very suffering situation, right? So then we were Spiritism, as always, explained that about explained that with the concept of reincarnation, right? So let's see. So then what is important to know is who the boy was before such life, where he came as this very sick boy, right? So he was so that after some time he was evoked at the Parisian Society after he had already died, right? So his spirit was evoked at the Parisian Society, and then see what he says, right? The one who you knew as being so miserable, huh? That the boy with the body only contorted, the body full of stars, suffering a lot. And so such a being had once been, in a previous incarnation, had once been handsome, great, rich, and admired. And he says, I was vain and proud. I denied God and harmed my fellow beings. But then I cruelly expiated my wrongs thereafter. And he explained that the suffering he endured during his last incarnation as that boy, last and short existence as that boy, he bore for an entire lifetime and existing before that life as a boy. So it means that he was suffering for two incarnations after he was that guy, that handsome, great, rich, and admired guy, right? And also selfish guy, right? So, and he clarifies, he explained that he himself had asked for such suffering in order to achieve his purification. So this is a completely different idea, right? That we have from our life, right? There is no limbo, right? At all. What we go through our life here on earth is a consequence of a past deeds, right? So that's what we can grasp here, right? From such a communication. Now let's talk about the purgatory, which is that situation, right, where the spirit is not in hell, but is not in heaven. He goes to an intermediary position, which is purgatory, and after that he can go to heaven, not to hell, but to heaven, because his or her sins, let's say, was not that serious, right? So the doctrine of purgatory was adopted by the Church in the year 590, 1993, so 6th century. And then, from the Spiritist point of view, it's a more rational dogma because it establishes less harsh penalties, right? So there is no hell, well, where the person will be burnt for the eternity, right? And this dogma allows for the redemption of less serious wrongs. So that's a situation here. And then, compared to human justice, it resembles temporary detention rather than a life sentence, right? Rather than a criminal, for example, rather than being sentenced for a lifetime in prison, he is sentenced also by temporary temporary period, right? So that is the idea of purgatory. And but souls in purgatory also burn, but in a less intense fire. So that's such idea, also such a almost a magical idea that is in this dogma. Right? And they cannot free themselves by improving themselves. So even if they improve themselves while they are there on the spiritual world, they are not to be freed from purgatory and goes to heaven. It is strictly necessary that someone, or let's say a relative who stayed here on earth, or some friend, or someone who loved him or her, is strictly necessary that someone pray for them. Then, after some time, they could be elevated to heaven. So that's the idea here of purgatory, right? So let's see what is the idea of spiritism. It's important to to say, right, that the spiritism does not have any belief regarding heaven, hell, purgatory, or limbo, right? Spiritism, as we are seeing here, has his own concept, right, about future punishment or rewards, which, as we have seen, is never forever, right? And punishment or rewards. So the view of spiritism, even the Christian dogma, does not define a location uh, to purgatory like they do to heaven and hell. And they also don't establish the nature of the penalties endured there on the purgatory. Huh? And what what does Spiritism do? Spiritism fill in this gap of establishing where is the location and what are the penalties by explaining the causes of the earthly miseries of life. And the Spiritism explained that, as we have already seen in the case before, that Spiritism explained that by through the reincarnation, right? The plurality of existences. So, and such miseries that we have, we go through on Earth while we are on Earth, as the case of that boy Marcel, result from the imperfection of the soul. So we are imperfect beings. We still are imperfect beings, and because we are imperfect, we do wrong, right? We do evil deeds. We do good deeds also, right? But we do by our imperfection, we tend to do more evil than good deeds, right? So, and then we have the consequence of that. So that's why Spiritism explain that people expiate on earth, and not only their current wrongs, because I may accomplish wrongs in this incarnation, and then I may have the consequences also on this incarnation. But I may have accomplished some wrongs on my previous incarnation, and the consequences I did not suffer there. I don't suffer now, right? So that's why Spiritism says that people expiate not only their current wrongs, but also previous ones that they could not expiate at the time on that previous life, right? So Consequently, where is purgatory? Purgatory is found, Spiritism says, on worlds of expiation. And our earth is a world of expiation, as we learn on Spiritism. So, purgatory is, at the end of the day, purgatory is earth. Well, we that you are incarnate in this world, we are in a world of expiation, meaning that we are expiating the wrongs that either we did it on this life or on a life before. And so, and spiritual in this case, located where is purgatory? It's here on earth. And the nature of the penalties endured by us while we are here, well, depending on the size of the wrongs, right? Let's say that we did, right, in the past. So that's what Spiritism says. So and but the main point is not to expiating here on earth the wrongs that I have done, even this current life or in some previous life. The main thing in Spiritism is that in each lifetime, we as spirits, we have an opportunity is presented to us to enable us to take a step forward. So that's the main thing. We are not here on earth, although we live in a world of trials and expiation, we say, we have that on the chapter 3 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. We are not here to suffer. We are here to evolve. We are here to progress. We are here to take not only one step forward, but many steps forward, and until we reach perfection. And when we reach perfection, we will be happy. And so we will enjoy bliss. So that's what God wants from us. Right? So therefore, it is through successive incarnations that we get rid ourselves from our imperfections. And that depends on us because we have free will, depending on each one of us to shorten or prolong our stay on this world. So that's very important, right? So God gives us the goodwill. God, in His infinite mercy, gives us infinite opportunities of incarnation to take our steps forward in the way of evolution, right? So that's that's the view of Spiritism. Spiritism gets get away from such idea of eternal suffering or eternal bliss with no much merit, right? So Spiritism view the life of the spiritist as a continuous progress, right? Uh, into the perfection. And then let's see this case here, which is a case of an average spirit, right? This is not a suffering spirit, but it's not a happy spirit either. It's someone who is in the middle. That's why I put this example here, which is something closer to idea of a purgatory, right? Someone who didn't, if he did wrongs, was not that serious wrong, right? And someone that try at least to be a good person while he was here. So this is Joseph Bray, and he communicated himself on Bordeaux, a city from France, in 1862. Actually, he had died in 18. He had passed away in 1840, and he was evoked in the city of Bordeaux in France by his granddaughter, 22 years after, right? So after his death, which was in 1862. And what did he say to his daughter, right? His granddaughter. He says, I'm suffering, but not like you might think. So it's not that big suffering, right? So what I regret is not having taken better advantage of my time while on earth, right? While I was incarnate. And uh, the granddaughter asked him, "Well, but you always was an honest man. Why you are regretting something?" Right? So she asked him, and then he says to her, right, "Well, um, the question is that what is an honest man from the point of view of you in humanity is very different. Is very different from what is honesty. An honest man before God. So that's what he realized, right? What after he had died, and then he explained, right, that men are regarded honest when they respect the laws of their country and do not harm their neighbor. Do not harm explicitly, right? But they often unscrupulously rob their honor and their happiness as long as the penal code or public opinion cannot reach them. Reach them. So what he's saying here that we have the appearance of a good person because I respected laws, I treated everybody well. But let's say in the shadows, and I can, for example, um, uh, take the honor, right? So that it's say something bad, right, about someone, and then I can the expression that he uses here, I can rob his or her honor and their happiness, right? Because by doing that, and no law, no human law will catch me on that, right? Nobody will know about that because I do that on the shadows, like I said, right? So and but God sees everything. So that's what he's saying here. It's like that famous expression, right, from the wife of Caesar, right, which says that uh, well, although in this case it's the contrary, it is not enough for the wife of Caesar to be honest, right? She must appear to be honest. Right? In this case, it's the contrary, right? So we should say that it's not enough for us to appear to be honest. We must be honest. Huh? So we shouldn't do anything that would go through this idea of honesty. Huh? And then he explained what is honesty before God. Right? So and then he says, honesty in God's sight is a man who dedicates himself to a life of goodness every all the time, right? And to the progress of his fellow man. He must carefully avoid the words you see here to rob the honor of someone. We can do that by uh, expressing such the words, right, regarding the person, which destroys reputations and often ruins upright men. So we must avoid that. Nobody would see if we do that, but no, doesn't matter, right? But we shouldn't, according to in the God side. Um, an honest man in God's sight must always have a heart closed to pride, envy, or ambition. He must be patient and benevolent toward those who attack him. We can remember here of of, uh, the good man that we see on the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 17. And then he said, right, this man, well, then did I do all that? Huh? Did I do all that he just said here? He says, no, I must confess here with you and in front of his granddaughter. I must confess here without blushing, without shame, that I often failed at many of those conditions. So that's why I'm suffering here. It's not big suffering, but it's more a suffering, a moral, right, from the conscience that he he did not he didn't do what he should do to be an honest man, not only before humanity's side, but um, in front of a God's side. So that's what he's saying here. And so with this, we have an idea of is this intermediary situation, right? So something close to the idea of a purgatory. Of course, this guy, for example, this Joseph Bre, we can clearly imagine that in the next incarnation he came, and he for sure he already came, he already incarnated, right? Because we are almost 2 centuries before us, right? So in his next incarnation, everything that he's saying here, he acting on that way, right? He was aware of that importance of being honest in front of God's side and not only from man's side, human's side, and he mostly probably had his life, posterior life, the life before this time, uh, acting in such a condition, right? So that's what I had today to give some of hell, limbo, purgatory, and how spiritism sees that, and what are the examples where we can better understand what is the view of spiritism regarding such issues. Well, thank you for being with me. So today we saw all these thoughts here. Next month we will see the doctrine. We will see a little bit more the doctrine of eternal punishment from the church, from the pagan, and then we will see what is the future punishment according to Spiritism. Okay, so and here we have the bibliography from the book Heaven and Hell. Thank you, Esteban.
Well, thank you, my friend. I like this conversation
Mhm.
from the grandfather with the daughter.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's a very good one to understand. Like,
And what is important also, um, Stephen, that he is reflecting about himself, right, and the moral point of view, but at the same time, actually, he's teaching her the granddaughter, and that's very
exactly.
important too.
Yes, yes,
And he's teaching
yes.
us also.
He's telling her,
Yeah,
do different, because if you do like I did,
yeah,
you're gonna end up like me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it is good. It is a eye opener for everyone.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. So, uh, let me see if we have any question. I see here Patrice, Pachi, and Louvier are here. So while you think you have any questions, I just give a remind. In 20 minutes, 8:30, we will have our virtual healing. So just stay tuned on our YouTube page, and you'll be able to see the broadcasting. There's no link. You see the broadcasting at 8:30. Okay. Okay. No questions, my friend.
Okay,
You are nailing it.
okay.
Yeah.
No, and today I was I exceeded at the time, I think.
No, 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 no. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The subject's complex, and the book is very difficult as well.
Yeah,
So it's more than. Yeah. Would you mind to do a final prayer for us, please?
sure, sure. Okay, so thank you, Stefan, again for this, as you said in the beginning, this wonderful partnership between Irish Spiritists Federation and the São Paulo State Spiritists Federation, which is lasting for 3 years already, right? We are going to the
More than. I think we're going to the fourth year.
fourth year, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
that's very good. So then let's thank you all the spiritual benefactors. We oversees the Irish Spirit Federation, also here the São Paulo State Spirit Federation, helping us to divulge the spiritist, spiritism to everybody who are interested in knowing about the meaning, the real meaning of our life. Why, as Kardec says, why we are here, no, where we came from, where we are going to, why we are here on Earth. So let's thanks all these benefactors for always helping us, and also thanks Jesus, who is in the foundation of the Spiritist doctrine, and finally to God for this, for His infinite kindness and mercy to ourselves, allowing us through these infinite incarnations to evolve in order to someday maybe we are going to face him, see him face to face because of the perfection we will have reached then. So be it.
Good. Wonderful. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who joined us online. By the way, next week, next month, what time, which day you are free?
16 of April.
16.
No, if you want, can be
Yeah,
another date.
I'll be in Brazil on 16th.
Ah, would you like it before or after?
I'm leaving Ireland on the
Mm.
13th. So
Mm.
if you can do on the
Before
Tuesday,
uh, 9.
Tuesday 9 is okay. Otherwise, we need to do this in May.
No, Tuesday 9 is okay. 1 week doesn't make any difference to me because I always prepare weeks ahead.
Okay, okay. So let's do it on the 9,
Okay,
9 of 4th. Okay, great.
9 of April then.
Yeah, 1 month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.